Imagine a high schooler with high expectations of what they want to do in their life. It could be a doctor, businessman, teacher, engineer. The list goes on. While these are all professions that benefit our society, there's one thing that prevents people from becoming these things: college tuition. For many Americans, going to college relies on the choice between lifelong debt or giving up on their dreams. It should not be this way, and it doesn't have to be. This afternoon, I'm going to inform you about ways to make college cheaper and more affordable for all people. The rate at which average college tuition is increasing is higher than inflation rates in America on goods and services. According to research done by educationdata.org, inflation has consistently grown faster for college tuition than general inflation for many years. For example, the average cost of college tuition has increased almost 500% over the last 20 years. The price of goods and services over the last 20 years has only increased about 100%. I have a visual to show you. It's a graph. Basically, what this is showing is on the bottom, it has as the years go on, and the yellow line is general inflation, right, in America, and then the white line is college tuition, and this shows college tuition has raised 498%, while general inflation has only raised 114%. This means that while the cost of living is rising, college is becoming more and more out of reach for families with children. This puts more financial burden and responsibility on the children being forced to figure out their own tuition. This means that they have to figure it out on their own, and they're not getting as much help from their parents because it's so much more expensive. There is no doubt that this is hurting our American economy. In Iowa, a college graduate's average student loan debt is $29,560. You are left after you graduate to pay $30,000 back. This leaves graduates unable to invest in homes, which is important for our market, start businesses, which is also good for our economy, and save for the future. College has always been looked at as a way to work your way up in society. It's seen as an opportunity. For the recent years, it has been more of a source of anxiety than anything. It is not something we can ignore any longer. College education is becoming a privilege that wealthy families can provide for their children. Less low-income students are enrolling in college, which means there's less diversity in the universities. This will ultimately lead to major gaps and less of a middle class. The rich and the poor will be very separated. Next, I have a video to watch explaining how students are looking at college education.
Wix. One platform, any website. Unlimited creation. Describe your need.
Back here at home, more than 150,000 borrowers had their student loans canceled today. President Biden said this afternoon he's forgiving some $1.2 billion of debt for those currently enrolled in a new repayment program. It comes as the annual tuition at a private nonprofit four-year college or university tops $41,000, and that is up 4% from just 1 year ago. CBS's Carter Evans takes an in-depth look at the high price of a college education.
I knew that college was going to be quite expensive no matter where I went.
Freshman Talia Day is among 1,700 students currently enrolled at Pomona College, a prestigious school with a hefty price tag. Gabrielle Starr is Pomona's president.
Every time we raise tuition, it doesn't feel good.
Between 1980 and 2023, the average price of college tuition, fees, and room and board in the U.S. skyrocketed 155%. What would you say is the single biggest expense?
Single biggest expense is people.
Many colleges and universities now operate like small cities, and critics say that's led to administrative bloat. There are now 3 times as many administrators and staffers as there are teaching faculty at leading schools. Demand for degrees is also driving up costs.
I feel like young people have gotten the sense that in order to be a part of the American dream today, you have to have your bachelor's degree diploma hanging on the wall.
Economist Beth Akers says easy access to loans compounds the problem.
We can't just be telling people a bachelor's degree at any cost is the golden ticket. And so people are signing on the dotted line basically at whatever price it takes to get them in and through.
So what's the solution here?
If we get students and their parents to think about what am I paying here versus what am I getting, then we really force institutions to, check themselves.
But even at the same school, the actual cost can be different for each student.
We give out a lot of financial aid.
At Pomona, 58% of students get some sort of aid, bringing their tuition closer to $16,000 a year. But many still rely on loans that will take years to pay back. Is it worth it?
All of the studies show that if you graduate from college, it's worth it. It's worth it in terms of the salary that you earn, and it's worth it in terms of the other opportunities that it opens to you.
Carter Evans, CBS News, Claremont, California.
This video mentioned that Biden was forgiving some loans, and while this is true for some people, most of Americans are forced to pay back their loans by themselves over long spans of time, which means that inflation and interest on the loans is crazy, and you end up paying so much more than you need to. While this is a big problem, there are solutions. First, we need to drastically increase the amount of funding from the government to public colleges and universities. Increasing the funding from the government will decrease the cost of tuition for students. This will lead to universities relying more on the government funding and less on the tuition the students are paying to fund their colleges. Second, we can increase and simplify access to financial aid. Grants, scholarships, and income-based student loans are all available now, but it's a really complicated and stressful process. According to internationalmonetaryfund.org, building donor-recipient coordination is a key aspect that can change our financial aid system. This basically means like scholarships and things like that. People that are donating it need to know who they're donating it to, and or vice versa, just so it changes our system. If we change the way financial aid is given, we can ensure that everyone gets what they need when they need it. This gives all students a fair chance at their dreams, and it will also help students that need it more get it more. I want you to envision a world where students are excited to graduate college, not anxious about their debt. Imagine adolescents who get to enjoy their time in high school and college, not spend most of their time working just to pay for their degree. A society where access to education is not based on money, but based on your aspiration, dedication, and work ethic. In this world, the economy would benefit too. With fewer students overtaken by debt, they would have the freedom to innovate, invest, and build the future up for our country. Startups would flourish, home ownership would become an achievable thing for most young people, and the gap between the rich and the poor would start to close. This is not just an idealistic vision, this is an achievable goal. A society that values education as a public option rather than a private privilege would see countless benefits for individuals and for our economy and society. Now, I am certain that you all have different opinions on this topic of college education and college tuition. However, it is important to look at all sides. Most people in America need to go to college to earn enough to live. Inflation in the US, we talked about it earlier, it's crazy, and the cost of living is rising. The ultimate goal for cheaper college would be for the government to provide more funding and put a cap on how much colleges can charge for tuition, and we need to reform the student loan and federal aid process, making it more accessible to all Americans. While most of you aren't in a position powerful enough to do that, you can write letters to government officials and sign petitions. For example, there's a petition on change.org called Lower College Tuition for Everyone. Signing this can help. You are part of the change, and you are needed as much as anyone else to take steps in the right direction. I hope you take this to heart and thank you for listening to my speech.